Welcome back to another episode of the Canon on the Boom Bust channel. I'm your host Terry, and today doing a non-spoiler review for Superman 2025, James Gunn, Superman, whatever you want to call it. Not my normal style. I usually like to spoil, but this is one of those rare occasions where we got it a little earlier than everybody. So I don't want to do too much. Plus, honestly, this might be a spoiler in itself. It ain't a lot to spoil. But anyway, going to give you some of my thoughts and we'll get into it. But I want to lay this out first. I know some people don't like it, but hey, we got to put all the cards on the table. We got to do all disclaimers. Number one, we got to recognize that this movie is for sure under the microscope, or really sits in between online feud of the Snyder Bros and the new Gunn Bros. Now look, everybody that's a Snyder fan is not a Snyder bro. Everybody that's a Gunn fan is not a Gunn bro. That's a term used to talk about the fanatics that take it too far. The people sending death threats. The people saying let's buy tickets and not show up. The people saying let's review bomb it. All that weird stuff. So we can't ignore that. That's not my thing. I just need to lay that out there. Again, laying my cards on the table. If you are in that, then obviously you already know what you feel. But if you're not part of that, this shouldn't really impact you one way or the other. But we got to recognize that's happening. Number two, this is the start of the DCU. Really the big kickoff. Creature Commandos was the start. But this is the big kickoff, which means that it has a different level of weight. It's going to be talked and judged differently. It's not just as simple as another movie. And number three, for anybody that's new to this channel, I'm not a James Gunn fan. I've been perfectly open about that. I was not happy he was picked as the head of DC, just because I don't like his movies. And really, he's co-lead and I know he does the creative. I don't love a director running anything. Much rather have a Feige or even really a writer, but either way, and I know James Gunn's writes too, but either way, so I love DC. Those are some of my favorite characters, and I don't like Gunn's movies, so pretty easy. I didn't want it. As far as him as a person, all that was never really part of it. And then over the years, there's been a lot of stuff happening, being said. And, you feel how you want about that, but strictly talking about the movies, I'm just not a fan. Like, honestly, my favorite works from him are the ones that people probably like the least. And, of course, the ones they like the most, I don't care. It's just not my flavor. Everything he does is not my flavor. I don't care about the type of music he cares about. I don't care about all these animals. I don't care for weird creatures and gore and gratuitous sex and cursing. That's just not my thing. And so I was like, okay, I wasn't into it. But I said I got to be hopeful because I want the DCU to succeed. There's a lot riding on this. And so that's kind of been my mantra. Over the few years since it was all announced, he's definitely rubbed me the wrong way. But again, that's outside of the movie, but I'm putting that out on the table. With all that being said, this movie, for me, and I typically like to watch it twice before I give like my full opinion. But for me, it was a bit of a mixed bag. I think that's the best way I could say it. And the best example I could give is Peacemaker. Because Peacemaker is that thing where it's hardcore James Gunn, but he delivered so well on the good stuff that it outweighed the James Gunn stuff for me, and that's rare. Obviously, most of his other stuff, I couldn't take the James Gunn stuff. But this movie, I think it's a lot closer to 50-50. And so that's why, like I said, it's a mixed bag. And again, I felt the same way in Peacemaker. Like, there's some moments that I'm like really vibing with. Then he does something. I'm like, okay, oh my God, was that necessary? And so I felt that way in this movie as well. I was really, especially the first like 20 some minutes, I was really like feeling like the world that they were building. And then as the movie went on, I felt like the pacing and the editing, it didn't always gel. But it's such a back and forth. And like I said, if you really like Gunn, or I didn't say this, but if you really like Gunn style, then you're going to be cool with it, and you might think it's even great, because the trailers, while it's very edited to take stuff out of context, it is the movie. And I don't mean plot. It is the tone, it's the flavor of the movie. Everything in those trailers is exactly the feeling you get in the movie. Almost, some of them are exact. And so if you were digging the trailers, you dig James Gunn, you're going to love this movie. You're going to have a good time. If you weren't feeling the trailers, there's a lot of stuff in the trailers that people complain about. It ain't no better in the movie. Like I said, it's really the same. And so to me, it was kind of a mixed bag, but it was good enough. The thing that we got to realize, and I said this to myself a few days ago, and I've been saying it, the number one job for this movie obviously is to make some money so the company knows that people like it. But the number one job for this movie is to show us, not even show us, to set up an interesting universe. Like, yes, of course we're going to see stuff, but is it going to be something that we want to return to? Do we care about the dynamics? And we learn very early on that this is going to establish other heroes. This is going to establish, obviously, Lex and kind of what he's got going on and all that. And the decision to make it 3 years into the career, which is kind of the new thing now, we've seen that with a lot of heroes, but you pick up in the middle of his career, and it allows you, now it does make it tricky because you gotta give it to the audience, but you can't always show them. So sometimes some people might say it's too much exposition, but the cool thing is it feels lived in. Stuff is just happening. It's not like, oh, let's stop and say, hey, look at this sign or look at this company. It's all there. Some moments they do explain stuff, but for the most part, the world feels lived in. And so I think they accomplished that. Number two, you had to make a Superman that people like. Now, I don't know how people gonna fall on this. I've liked David Cornsweet in all the trailers, and again, I liked them in the movie. But there's people that said they're not feeling them, and to me, it's even more intense in the movie, because there are some parts that I get James Gunn trying to make this a more human, relatable, not grounded, but a relatable Clark. Like, hey, I'm just one of the guys. And they do it too much. They put too much sauce on it in certain scenes. Other times it works. And when he has to be a hero, it works. And that's what really matters the most. And so I think they accomplished those two jobs. And then past that, you got to establish the relationships, the key players and all that. And it's there. It's there. Some of it's done in an interesting way, but it's all there. But I wouldn't say it was high level, not consistently anyway. So yeah, every review is very different. And just in this review, this is one where I feel the need to go by characters. And I'll kind of do it that way, especially since I'm not doing spoilers, and then, we'll wrap it up. So for me, as I said, Superman I like. The only thing that I can say that I'm sure others will feel, not a lot of Clark Kent. And to be honest, the moments of Clark Kent that we got, to me, didn't do a good enough job of making it believable that this isn't Superman. They do some things to kind of work around that, but overall, I didn't feel like this is a different person, like, at all. So, but the Superman stuff, he's mostly Superman in the movie, and he's great. And I don't really agree with the whole Henry Cavill didn't have a personality. I think he did. He might have had one that people didn't like for Superman, but he had one. This is a full human. I don't know that I would say this is quote unquote Superman. Depends on what comic, what show, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't feel like any Superman that I know. I'm not a huge comic person, but he feels like a person. a full three-dimensional person, so I think people will dig that. Lois, exactly how I felt coming into it. That's just Midge from Miss Maisel in current times, and she's great as Midge. She's great, doing the thing, the quick whips that the quips that she does, and I think, I don't know, I think what it wasn't the performance. I do think Rachel, even though she's just kind of playing Midge, I do think she's capable of more. But the way they wrote her, it did not do any favors to the classic Lois Lane, as some people think of her as the hard-hitting reporter. I'll just say that. But so Superman slash Clark, I'll give a A-. Lois, I'll give a C+. Jimmy, I'll give a B. This is a different Jimmy. I'll give him a B. Some of it was just funny because of the way they made it. I don't even know that it was necessarily him, but I like the type of character they made him. Lex. Let's talk about Lex. Lex was my biggest hang up coming into here. But I said this with my brother when we was talking about it, I said it might be Jesse Eisenberg. People despise Jesse Eisenberg much like they do Henry Cavill, because they said it's not the blank version of Lex. And again, you could play that game. What you could be talking about, a video game, a certain comic book, one other comic book, a TV show, a movie. Like, we can do that game. The point is, when you're making a movie, it ain't, again, some fans can't get over trying to recreate the comic. That's not the job. You're trying to tell a story. You have your own version, and it's the actor's job to deliver on that version. The version of, like, kind of the ADHD tech guy, like little weasel that they wanted for Lex with Eisenberg, he did a great job at it. So I always applaud that performance. It might not be the version you like, but he did what he was supposed to. Same thing here. I was like, this is not coming off like the Lex that I'm thinking of, which is animated series. He's not that Lex. He is the Lex that Holt can play, because Holt can't play that gravitas, but he plays sniveling, and that is this Lex. He's good, and he's capable, and he's competent, and he's dark, but he's sniveling at the end of the day, and it really shows by the end of the movie. So it worked. It worked exactly the way they wanted him to be. So I'm gonna give him an A. Who else are big players? Guy Gardner, A. Another one that I was like, I really am not. First of all, I hate James Gunn casting the same people over and over, especially Nathan Fillion. But don't even like Guy Gardner, and you're not supposed to really, but I'm like, picking him, why would you pick him to be in this movie? So I knew he was supposed to be a jerk, but Nathan played it great. What a talented guy. It was just so perfect. He was one of the best parts of the movie. Mr. Terrific, A, one of the best parts of the movie for sure. First of all, the Hollywood black fro, the struggle fro, we gotta stop, bro. We gotta stop with these Tyler Perry wigs. Y'all spend too much money on that to have that man looking like that. That don't look it looked like they ripped the same wig he was wearing in X-Men First Class and threw it on his head. I don't like that. But, he's Mr. Terrific, and you could play him different ways, but the way he played him was unexpected, and I really enjoyed it. Hawk Girl, C. First of all, I don't know that lady. She is super fine, and I want to give her an A for that, but to be honest, her character didn't do much. And then Crypto, F. I'm just kidding. I won't give Crypto an F, but I'm gonna give it it's a D. I'm sorry. I'm not a dog guy, so I'm not giving it points just because it's a dog. And I'll give it a C-, because for the story, Crypto actually fit. But James Gunn said he made it to be his dog, and that's the only reason he inserted it. And yeah, it comes off as like, okay, we're spending too much time doing the dog owner stuff. So C- there. And then the other ones, I don't know that we even really need to grade them. But so overall, like I said, I came away with some moments that I really enjoyed. I most importantly came away with characters I want to see again. I want to see Superman. I want to see Miss Terrific. I want to see them interact. I want to see Guy Gardner interact with those people. I want to see Lex again and what's next for him. I loved all that. I loved the way they built and realized those characters in this version. But the story itself and a lot of the ways it plays out and a lot of the decisions, it's kind of 50-50 for me. So that's my thoughts, man. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you saw it, if you're going to see it, all that. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. And remember, if you heard it here, it's official canon.